Hi, everybody. This is day 2030, and let's get started since we've been fighting this for so long because over 2,000 days ago, 2,030 days ago, Richard was forcibly removed from his barracks room and taken down to the basement room, which was the arms room, a soundproof room, and his life was taken from him. And his body was stolen off of Fort Bliss and trafficked to Mexico, where um, and the evidence indicates that his organs were harvested and he was disposed of, his remains were disposed of at Plenitude Crematorium or the likes. And, more and more evidence is really pointing to Plenitude Crematorium. So, and we're putting that all together. And every day is breaking news, and today is no difference. There's so much breaking news. Um, and you just wouldn't have believed it. Even, I mean, very few days haven't had breaking news in over 2,000 days. It just is never ending, never stops. And so we're trying to put all that information together in an organized way in the pipeline, right? The Epstein, John of God pipeline that really is very connected to um, the Windy City, right? Chicago, the ancient city of Chicago, and down into the Santa Fe, New Mexico area because of the Santa Fe lab from Los Alamos researchers that Jeffrey Epstein hired to create this lab, um, to create a Ponzi scheme. I call it a Ponzi scheme because it's the most ridiculous thing. Most ridiculous thing if you have faith, right? If you have a Christian faith, uh, it's ridiculous. But for a lot of very, very wealthy people, they take it very seriously. And he claimed to know how to figure something out in that laboratory with those researchers that very wealthy people like the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and the Trilateral Commission members of the Billionaires Club that they would want, right? That they would want. They wanted to cheat God. They wanted to cheat God. How can you do that? It's just really ridiculous. And then turn that biological discovery into a financial instrument. And he was the finance person that really got the ear. It reminds me of, I'm thinking of Voltaire. Voltaire, just a scoundrel, total scoundrel, but he had the ear of the court, right? He had the ear of the French court and believe Russia. He was just something else, Voltaire was, and just a total scoundrel. And I think that Jeffrey Epstein is Voltaire, reincarnated or on steroids, a good example of that. The more we know, the more we read. Absolutely a scoundrel that is allowed to go into the highest echelon circles of world leadership. And it doesn't look pretty, does it? It doesn't look pretty at all. You're like, they're leading us? Really? They're leading us? So let me make sure that everything is working and we can get started. Thank you for joining. I know I'm always burning midnight oil, but it just can't be helped. There's just uh, so much to go through. And this is very personal to us because of our son, who was a whistleblower and was retaliated against by the system, by the leadership, by his chain of command, by El Paso leadership that is controlled and even part of this Mormon faction El Paso cartel in alliance with the Mexican cartel. That is the protection racket for the Jeffrey Epstein pipeline that goes, it goes worldwide. It goes worldwide. And I think, having the John of God in Brazil, that's pretty far south, is a good, just shows his reach, But we're talking about Ukraine, we're talking about France and the Middle East and Russia and China and um, just, the islands, uh, just everywhere. He lived on the phone. That was in his interview with Steve Bannon, that he lived, on the phone, and he said yes, just lived on the phone. And in order to have this power, he compromised those that he wanted power over, or to control the power. You saw that with Wexner, totally controlled by Jeffrey Epstein, and gave him uh, a lot of wealth, a lot of wealth. So he must be very, very compromised. Meeting darkest, their very darkest desires. And this is why faith is so important. Religion is so important. Organized religion is so important. Uh, and of course, this is our opinion. Why liturgy is so important, and of course, we love the Book of Common Prayer. Why that is so important to have a very organized worship, not chaotic at all, very determined, no surprises, right? No surprises. Why that's so important? Because you can go wrong very easily. A, a, a religion, a worship can go wrong very easily. Very easily. And that's why we like the Ordo calendar, why we like the liturgical calendar, why every day is numbered, while every day is dictated. Every minute of the service is organized and has a purpose. And then the creeds, the sacraments, part of them. Know what you believe exactly. One of the biggest flags is if a church says there's no creed but Christ. That puts off really big flags. Really, I mean, run the other direction. That's just my opinion. Um, because if things aren't defined, it can go wrong so easily, and they can exploit you, and they can manipulate you and brainwash you, and before you know it, you belong to some kind of cult. And this is what's really being indicated in this whole thing with Jeffrey Epstein. He knew that they could be manipulated into a cult, into cult activity. And cult activity, you check in, but you never check out, and you don't say things. You don't say things. And what has surfaced with all of this Epstein file release is the cultish nature and the spiraling down into the darkest depths. And I've been talking about that for years, years, um, because that's what this looked like. And absolutely like a sex cult, a very out of control, out of control, with people that have access, members of this cult that have access to top secret, like the pilot's daughter, right? The pilot's daughter at Fort Huachuca having access to our national security, our national databases, giving Connell Wetton our access to our national security narco databases, all the investigations, and then him in turn, them making an alliance with the Mexican cartel and giving them access to that database without a FOIA. There's no FOIA. They just can go on and see who are the witnesses, who are the whistleblowers, which law enforcement is on the case, and they can do their dirty deeds. So we've discovered that. And now I want to play. Let's see if I can play it. And I did get a little feedback about how eerie this is and why it's to a song. And this was out, it went viral. And I'm talking about Gabriela Rico Jimenez's testimony. I would call it a testimony. Some people call it a meltdown. No. And why do I call it a testimony? Because I know I've been in that same spot, and I've been telling people around me, different groups I go to, um, about our son when we found, every day was like new news, breaking news. And many times people, especially early on, people would look at me like, no way, you are dreaming. You are dreaming. This is not happening. Maybe, and we've been right all along, haven't we? We've been right all along. And for Gabriella, they looked at her, and even if they knew that it was true what she said, they acted like it was, and they institutionalized her. I don't know where she is now. I don't know what her family is doing now. I don't know if they're protecting her, but she wanted her freedom. And I'm going to play it because I think it's really important. Okay, just real quick. This is 2009. It seems like she was trafficked, and by people in very high places. And she does name names. And and I want to give you a warning. You might not want to watch this. You might not want to listen to this. You need to be the judge, because it is, we've been through so much. Oh, what is this? we've been through so much that we know that the information needs to get out. And it needs to get out to the people. And that information is disturbing. But we need to face it so we can clean it up. That's how we feel. And this is that case. I mean, our son's case is just totally disturbing. It's just totally disturbing. It's a nightmare. It's absolutely hell. And I can't even imagine what this family has had to deal with. And I really pray that she's alive. She's very brave. And it's just terrible that she didn't get the support that she deserved in an investigation, because it would have saved so many lives. I mean, look at everyone's talking about the children now, right? I mean, we've been talking about the children for years. And they're saying 250,000. It's more like 500,000. 500,000 being trafficked through Fort Bliss. So it's very disturbing. The whole Plenitude crematorium is totally disturbing, isn't it? And the judge is making a mockery out of it. And it's totally disturbing. But they are calling the families, the victims' families of Plenitude crematorium are not happy with the judge, and they have started picketing, demonstrating against the judge, saying that he needs to get out. He needs to get out. Which is really amazing, because Chihuahua is a narco state, and the people find the courage to get out there and protest. It is really amazing. So this is important, and this is in Monterrey, Mexico. This is in Monterrey, and so let's get back to it.
I am Gabriela Rico Jimenez from Chihuahua, Mexico. In 2009, I want the people in Monterrey, Mexico, where I lived. I wanted my freedom. Monterrey freed me, but it cost me everything. I was in Mexico City for a year and 4 months. It all began in May 2008. They took me to a place where they do horrible things. They ate humans, disgusting. They ate humans. They smell like human flesh. I wasn't aware of anything. The murders, yes, but that they had eaten humans. Carlos Slim knew about this. Carlos Slim. Carlos Salinas knew. I want my freedom. It hurts my soul. They took him away. They killed people. They ate human flesh. The Queen of England knows they are cannibals. Los Pinos knows. The politicians know. The famous people know. They have me trapped. They killed my friends. They ate them. Leave me alone. They've humans, Carlos Slim, Carlos Salinas, the Queen, Los Pinos. They know, they all know. I want my freedom. Justice for Richard Halliday. Justice for Richard Halliday.
¡Comieron humanos! ¡Asquerosidad!
So, it just leaves you speechless, and it gives you shivers. The depth of depravity, the depth of depravity from even a judge that has the perpetrator of, you have to understand, this was one raid at one time, and they were burning all night long. And this one raid, over 40 bodies. And the media was very slow when you saw the whole action of it, the days of it. They wanted to minimize the numbers, and the numbers were pouring out. So we don't even know if over 400 bodies is a correct number, because there's so many. And that's right over the border. And that is by the owner. The owner lives right next to Beto O'Rourke, that shares an address with Bob Moore of El Paso Matters, that is involved in La Diabla, which her family was employed by Beto O'Rourke. And the judge, the dirty judge, has the owner in jail, and he lets him out by minimizing the crime to administrative crime. This Plenitude crematorium didn't even have a license and was connected to the mother of Governor Maru Campos. The mother was the government oversight, the land oversight, the license oversight of that crematorium. And it had no license, y'all. It had no inspections, no oversight. And this was the most gruesome, despicable place, where all indications, because of Rafael Arellano Caron and Rosa Maria Purchase Arellano Caron, and the brother Jose Luis, is absolutely connected to Connell Wetton of the special agent in charge of the FBI. We have all that hard evidence. So El Paso Matters, which is El Paso Community Foundation because it's exclusively for the benefit of El Paso Community Foundation, which is Woody Hunt. And because it's argon, oil, and gas, it connects with Carlos Slim. Because it's argon, oil, and gas, it connects with Energy Grupa Carvel of Cesar Paneche, whose mansion was also raided because of Huachicol. I'm not saying it right, but it's oil theft, it's siphoning from Pemex oil, and all indications are also stealing from Fort Bliss fuel. And all of this is connected, of course, to Cesar Duarte, the governor, land barons. And don't forget that Woody Hunt controls 80% or more of all military housing. These contracts. It is also a land baron. And because it's this fuel thing, it includes Paul Foster and his energy interests. And anyone that can't stomach watching Gabriella suffer, beautiful young lady. Of course, she had the beauty to be a model, a singer, actress. She did not sign up for that. And that kind of evil. And it reminds me of what was in Mexico City in the 1500s, right? What was found under Montezuma, who sold human flesh in his marketplace, in his markets. Is that what we're returning to? And there's, a lot of talk about this. What can we do about it? We need accountability. We need arrests. We need this, right? And I totally agree. I've been fighting for it every day. Every day we have been fighting for answers and accountability in our son's remains every day. And for a long time, many years, for his good name to be restored. And President Trump restored that. Clearly, we won that battle. And this is, an ongoing, vicious negotiation for the repatriation of our son's remains and accountability. And with that, you see there, everyone says you're never going to get it. You're never going to get it because everyone's compromised. And it's true that so many are exploited and compromised and or corrupt and engaging in the activities. And so what do you do? And I hear, even though I have the opportunity now because of our millions and millions of views to go and interview with other podcasters and the likes, we're hearing such negativity. It's never enough. It's never enough. It's just all belly aching to me anyway. And one of the things they complain about is Pam Bondi. She talked about the Dow, the economy, and here she is, the Department of Justice. And I just thought, okay, then they don't understand that if we have a very weak economy, then people are going to be forced into compromising situations, or they're going to they might be more apt to go into compromising situations if the economy is that stinky. It will strengthen the Mormon faction El Paso cartel. If the economy is stinky, it'll strengthen the likes of the Jeffrey Epstein pipeline, the likes of the Mexican cartel, the likes of John of God, people searching for relief, I guess, answers in all the wrong places, or just give up and sell your soul and just satisfy whatever darkness you have in you. That's what happens when you have poor money, when your money doesn't buy, when it's devalued, when your money is devalued as a country, when your pride in your country has been diminished and tarnished, when the economy is, tanks, is in the dumps. So this ruling of the Supreme Court really shows that the compromise has gotten so bad and the corruption so bad that it has reached into our highest courts. And we know El Paso, we know El Paso is, the judicial system is Mayella, right? Crucius Mayella, and that the El Paso Criminal Law Magistrate Court is keeping silent that every one of those judges is an imposter, that there's a constitutional crisis within the judicial system. I don't see any judges coming out and speaking out about it in the courthouse, right? The courthouse judges, I don't see them speaking out about it. They don't care that they're not constitutionally legal. Because if they are judges on the El Paso Criminal Law Magistrate Court, they have to be elected. Because in 2015, that court was given full countywide jurisdiction. And because of that, it fell under different rules in the Texas Constitution. And those judges must be elected. Not one of them that I know of is elected. Not one. So it's an absolute constitutional crisis. So we know with James Bonneau Montoya, Mr. 2028 stamp as the prosecutor, that he's totally compromised. We know that Bill Hicks is totally compromised. We know the federal courthouse is totally compromised, including Judge David Guadarrama. We know he's totally compromised because his manager was Mayella, Patrick Crucius's family, the Walmart shooter's family, who is connected to John of God, disciple of John of God. In Allen, Texas, where the security for the failed security of Charlie Kirk was from, and who Erica Kirk still keeps. She still keeps failed security, major failed security, major failed security, and that is the big indication that something is absolutely rotten at TPUSA, that they keep failed security, and not just a little failed security, major failed security. So now we know our courts, our Supreme Court, absolutely is compromised. The rot has gone in there. And we know that now, right? But President Trump has known that for a long time. That's why I played the video of him in 2015 calling out the island and also former Prince Andrew. He knew. And going through his first term, he knew that the courts were rotten, that the DA's offices, the prosecutors, AUSA, very infiltrated and rotten, cannot be trusted to do the right thing. So he's been using a different avenue within the system, the executive branch avenue, which includes tariffs. And his focus, of course, has been the border, the border, the border from the minute he took the oath of office. It's been about the border, the border, the border, about El Paso, the epicenter, about Jeffrey Epstein's pipeline, about Richard Halliday's case. 4 days later, we received the in the line of duty. And then all the arrests, and I'm talking about the south of the border activity in really stopping the USA, turning off the spigots of money, of corruption, of the cartel, everything south of the border. It's just been incredible. And maybe you haven't seen it. We've seen it. We've been keeping up with it day in and day out. And it's just been amazing to see the fake economy or the illicit economy be hammered, be turned off, the leadership extradited, or many of them no longer alive. I mean, the leader of the cartel kingpin of the tunnels along the border is no longer alive, and his security was the police. It's the same thing in El Paso. The security for Jeffrey Epstein's pipeline, for the Mormon faction El Paso cartel, has been the military. They've used our military, they've used our DPS, Texas Rangers, they're totally compromised. They've used the El Paso police, as many as they could get. There are, the El Paso ISD police, and those that wanted to serve with honor, they were retaliated against. We know that the CID was totally compromised, and our prime suspects in our son's death. So what is going on is the dismantling of that kind of power. Um, it because it is a pipeline, it is now crossing the border. And I think Cesar Duarte is a very good example of that. Rafael Arleon Caron is a very good example of that. Carlos Manuel Salas is a very good example of that, because they all have Jose Luis Arleano Caron is a good example of that, because they are residents in the United States. They have major, well, they are property barons, land barons. They have so much property. And this property includes being in New Mexico, surrounding Zorro Ranch. This, and of course, in connection with Bill Sanders, Beto O'Rourke's father-in-law. And then Bill Sanders is from Chicago. And of course, he is with Obama, with Oprah, with Thomas Pritzker. And the names keep falling. So that the action that President Trump has taken south of the border during his first year is now coming across the border, and we're seeing lots of activity. But when you dismantle billions of dollars of cartel activity, you better have an economy that's roaring, ready to go. Otherwise, things will be very chaotic and so many people will get hurt. And at the same time, think about this. We had such a bloated government that was being exploited for this criminal activity. And you see that with this Supreme Court decision, right? You see that with the very corrupt flag officers, these generals. These generals get their stars from Congress, from the Senate Arms Committee. Of course, the president has to nominate, but they get it from them. And you see that there is corruption there and compromise there, and how poor the leadership is to allow our sons and daughters to live on a military base in the barracks, where it is just like a cult activity with every vice there is for mankind. And we're supposed to have a strong military, but yet they want to surround our soldiers with every vice, every vile and vulgar tool that they have, or and then profit off of it, monetize it, monetize the destruction, the very destruction of the core of our military, our volunteer sons and daughters, the most valuable assets that we have. Very clear that we needed to fire a lot of people in our government, including those in the VA, because that was a total. I mean, when you think of Leilani Hart's husband being in the VA and everything that she confessed him doing there, taking advantage of our soldiers, of our veterans. So, okay, how do you fire 300? I think it's over 300,000 now. So you're dismantling an illicit economy, firing over 300 people in our government. You better have an economy. We are doing so good for those facts, and at the same time, to be battling those that want to sabotage our milk, sabotage our eggs, sabotage our beef, sabotage our steel, sabotage our economy in any way. So that's what President Trump has been, and so much more, right? Because of the pressures for war, pressures for from the corporations that have just been, you know, uh, they've been handed everything on a platter for so long. And now, it's like, no, you need to work for it. You need to actually produce something. Um, and something, not like a little blue pill or something, something that's, like a television, some maybe he just put down the regulations, the emission regulations on cars to lower the price of cars. Um, and I'm not saying it's all perfect. It's a vicious negotiation to get our country back again, some semblance of sovereignty, out of the clutches of this cartel pipeline was defending a financier the likes of Jeffrey Epstein, and you know, I don't buy that. He's gone yet. So, I did some after today. We got together and did some looking into what the whole tariffs thing means, because in order to get accountability, to get real accountability, where people are not afraid to be whistleblowers, not afraid to be witnesses, not afraid of the retaliation that Richard faced, which was from me, from the cartel, from El Mayo, from his chain of command, from the Mormon faction. I mean, these are not. Richard was a big deal, y'all. A very big deal. He was a big deal. And they came after him. And don't forget that Glendon Oakley Jr., a witness, not alive anymore. April 2020, April 8th to be exact. And then this Gabriella, 2009, she was a witness. I'm praying she's still alive. And so, in order for witnesses to not be afraid, to have more protection, real protection, not from the Texas Rangers. No, they are totally compromised. I mean, Jose Sanchez needs to be out. Gustavo Sanchez, with his cartel connections, needs to be out. Cody Carter needs to be out. And then you have the Highway Patrol, the wannabe Texas Rangers. Patrick Brookshire, he needs to be out. These are, JT. What about Juan Torres, JT? Out. That's Uvalde. That's Walmart mass shooting. That's the Uvalde shooting. That's Richard's case. That's Richard's case. That's Richard's case. Yeah. They are totally compromised, especially Company E. And in order to get real protection, where they're not exploiting our taxpayers' money for the Crucius defense, right? Millions and millions of dollars to defend Patrick Crucius, whose father is a disciple of John of God, and whose family is the judicial and law enforcement community, the Mayella family, and also mental health. His mother's the Lorraine Mayella, and totally connected to the courthouse with Anthony Aoun, who's now an imposter judge on the El Paso Criminal Law Magistrate Court. And this is a Crucius case that taxpayers have to pay millions of dollars for defense. Yeah. Would they have done that for Gabriella? Would they have done that for Richard? Well, they sent the billionaire lawyer in for him, for counterintelligence. They sent asymmetric warfare officer to do their army deception tactics, their expert ability to deceive, to the Gold Star family as the casualty affairs officer, who was caught. He wasn't so good. He can write about it. He's published, but he's not too good because he got caught red-handed engaging in or weaponizing his asymmetric warfare tactics against our family. And don't forget the vile and vulgar months of texting that they used access to everything about us. And thank God we're very sparkly clean. Thank God. I can't even imagine what people go through when they have, a bad divorce in their life or something that they did that they regret, and I just can't even imagine the hell that they have to go through with these very nasty people. And we were able to trace these burner phones, y'all. And where did it go? It went to NATO. It went to Santa Clara, California. It went to North Carolina. It went to Toronto, North Carolina, Fort Bragg. Okay. It went to the White House. I kid you not. It went to the FBI office there in Seoul, South Korea, because ADA is in Korea. Seoul. Gimpo. Went to Gimpo, one of the phone calls, yeah. So we were able to trace We turned that in, and the call messages stopped. It's just been really, we have what we need, but we need a good economy so that the whistleblowers, the witnesses, and even good lawyers, let's say you're a good lawyer or you're a good judge. I know a judge just recently in Chihuahua was shot for calling out the cartel, shot in his head for calling out the cartel. We need to dismantle the cartel, and part of dismantling the cartel is to have a very productive, legitimate economy. It's very important. And what the Supreme Court demonstrated today is that they're saboteurs. They're saboteurs on our Supreme Court. And thank God America is so amazing. The laws are so amazing. And President Trump still has um, tools in which he can administer tariffs, because another thing that he's been doing that a lot of people don't know, I think it's over 50% now, that he has reduced the IRS, employees in the IRS. And then redirecting their investigations to real crime instead of, um, oh, you should have paid 10 cents more or something like that to a working American. Really mainly to the border and illegals and all of these, like El Paso Matters. That needs, the IRS needs to investigate them. Like Arleano Caron and his businesses. Like one Jose Luis and his businesses. And Rosa Maria purchased Arleano Caron and her businesses. And what the heck is Carlos Manuel Salas doing? Because he's illegally claiming residence in the United States, because as the prosecutor for the North Zone in Chihuahua, Mexico, he's not allowed as a public official to have residence in a foreign country. For him to have residence in the United States is breaking Mexico's laws. So this is all coming together, and I just wanted to make sure that people understood that if we have a failing economy, it's going to be a much harder task to get accountability and to get Richard's remains. We need to have a good economy. And, I, you know, no human is perfect. There's been losses in what's going on because of the saboteurs and bad decisions. But I think there's a real hope and a real chance for this golden age. And that golden age means accountability. It doesn't mean just riches. And what did Gabriella say over and over again? I want to be free. I want to be free. I want my freedom. She felt so enslaved by this horrible demonic group. And that's the message. That's what this demonic group, what they do. They enslave. They take your freedom away. They take goodness away. They eat at your soul. They horrify you. And I think that's why I needed to post that and play, to put that song together and to post it, because I think the message is that when you engage in such demonic deprivation, you don't have life. You don't have freedom. You don't have happiness. You don't have sanity. So that's the message. So let me read the comments now. I see Laura. Thank you, Laura, for coming on. Thank you for your prayers. Thank you for your love. You're on. Thank you so much. Thank you, Anicia. Thank you for your love and just continuous prayers and being a guardian angel, really a guardian angel. Arlene Romero, thank you for your love and your prayers. They are saying that, I don't know if I'm allowed to say the words, but that what Gabriella was reporting has been the way of their ancient civilization. Absolutely. That was Montezuma. Montezuma, exactly. Yeah. Can we all now say they are a TO? Yeah. I would say so. El Pasoans and Warriors are and will start speaking up. They have. And the families are protesting this crooked judge, right? This crooked judge. So if the flesh peddler has a food restaurant, I don't, can you imagine? And he's had to forfeiture a lot of his businesses, just to let you know, because he's being sued right now. And so there's a lot going on behind the scenes, that because we accidentally found that he was being sued because of what was going on with Jose Luis. So, that was a blessing out of that, right? There was a blessing out of that. God, yeah, because that's a pretty new lawsuit. That's a new lawsuit. Okay. And we're getting more information about that. That's forthcoming. Then having the biggest military base, the judge I got for family matters, he is a tyrant. Yeah. Right. And we're not going to get those judges out of there if this cartel have this grip on El Paso. And they have the grip because they employ illicitly, right? Illegally, so many people, they compromise them. So we need to have other legal avenues for people to do well, right? We need to have this golden age in order to really reduce this criminality and get the accountability, right? If you don't submit, they will retaliate. Absolutely. And so many, I mean, they were shaking in front of us. Soldiers were shaking in front of us. It was just even Jack. Before this, the the sergeant major was shaking in front of us. Before the judge, I had the freedom living out in the USA if I wanted to without their dad's permission due to severity of the case. Mm, yeah. Yeah, we need good, and you see how that affects the family and the children and everything. We need good judges and we need good lawyers. And they've been just so compromised. I can't even tell you how compromised they've been through this whole thing. And um, of course, we need no tolerance for James Montoya's 2028 stamp, no tolerance for Bill Hicks. I got to call the SOS to say, hey, handle my problem for me. Um, you know, uh, no tolerance for an illegal being the chief medical examiner making $500,000 of taxpayers' money a year and not even being qualified for that position. Yeah, we can't tolerate that any longer and think that we're going to get any kind of accountability. And so, right now, with all of that in place, people have told me that we need to, or our family to sue, and we're like, really? I think we need to um, get into a better situation here, um, because when you have a crooked legal system and judicial system, and then the oversight is even, don't forget, of what's her name? Oh gosh, Barunda Firth, Sylvia Barunda Firth, when you have someone crooked like her in the oversight, or, yeah, she's really bad. Then, and then you have someone like Veronica Escobar, that is, oh, she's so evil, y'all. She is so evil. I don't know if Gabriella was talking about Veronica Escobar. I don't know. Um, all I know is she's so evil. So, yeah, thank you so much. That is really the message for today. We are moving forward, and thank God that President Trump is moving forward in his message. Um, researching it was a real positive one for the borderland, a golden age for the borderland. Mexico might have a little harder struggle now because of what the Supreme Court did, but because of the proximity um, uh, to the United States, to El Paso, and just the need for Mexico and the United States to work together. I think they're going to do really well in participating with this golden age. And we are a government of the people, by the people, and of the people, for the people. So if it's going to happen, we have to be part of it. We have to be part of it also. So, matter of fact, we're the drivers of it. We're the drivers of it. So, thank you for sharing. Thank you for liking. Thank you for commenting. And I will be back. I will be back tomorrow, God willing. Thank you. Bye bye.